This is the Comics Alternative Kickstarter, discovering the 2018 releases from Birdcage Bottom Books. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative Kickstarter. I'm Derek, and this is the show where every week I talk with a creator or a creative team about a comics-related project that they are in the midst of kickstarting. And this week I have the pleasure of talking with JT Yost. He is the guy behind the Kickstarter campaign Birdcage Bottom Books 2018 comics publications. JT, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. Now, I have known about Birdcage Bottom Books for quite some time, and in fact, I think it was 2, maybe 3 years ago, you reached out to us at the Comics Alternative to offer what you do to what we do in terms of bringing attention to indie comics. And we've even discussed some of your books, some of the titles on the show. But our listeners may not be as hep to Birdcage Bottom Books as I am. So why don't you introduce everyone to what you do?
Sure. So our mission statement, we don't have an official mission statement, but what I try to do is basically, hunt out really great artists, great cartoonists, and that are kind of flying under the radar and not as well known as I think they should be, and try to get them in front of more people, just get them wider recognition. So, this specific Kickstarter this year that's the baseline of what we're trying to do. I have, most of these artists you've probably never heard of, but I think they're really incredible. So that's what this whole Kickstarter is, trying to fund the printing of 2 books and 5 mini comics by mostly people. I mean, there is one, Sara Lautman is, she's regularly does cartoons for the New Yorker, so maybe she's a little more visible than the others, but for the most part, you probably never heard of them, but you should.
In fact, one of Lautman's work, I think it was Black and White Diary Comics, is something that we discussed last year on the Comics Alternative.
Yeah, I've published quite a few of her comics. I think she has a very unique individual voice, and, she's doing something that I haven't seen other people do, and just has a very definitive both drawing style and her sort of storytelling, or even her gag jokes. They're different than anything I've seen.
Yeah, and one of the books that I see on your Kickstarter page is from her, and this is what? Pictures of Bananas and Funny Bugs.
Yes.
Okay. And then some of the other titles that you're specifically kickstarting that I guess are going to be 2018 releases. One is by Eva Müller. Am I pronouncing that last name correctly?
Your guess is as good as mine. I think you're right, though.
Yeah, M-U-LLER. In the Future, We Are Dead. And I am not familiar with Müller, so can you tell us a little bit about what this book is about?
Yes. So this is one that sort of, in honesty, sort of inspired the whole Kickstarter, because she's a German artist, and she sent me this completed graphic novel, In the Future We Are Dead, which has been published in German, so we would be doing a translation of it, basically. But anyway, she sent me this comic, and I was just really blown away. And it's full color, and it's around 160 pages, so I knew that the production cost of printing it was kind of out of my budget. Mm-hmm. But I really, I was really blown away by this story, and I wanted to help get it published. So at first I was going to put it in front of all of the publishers that I like, or that I think would take good care of it. And after sitting on it a few days and just thinking about it, I was like, this is something I really want to publish, and I need to find a way to do it. And so I have used Kickstarter in the past. I try not to abuse it. I've used it for a few anthologies, which is a little different, because with anthologies, I try to, along with more unknown artists, I try to put in some well-known artists. Like, you know, in the past I've had like Jeffrey Brown, Renee French, Alex Robinson, James Gachalka, people that, you know, people in our sort of subculture know about.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps, you know, tremendously with Kickstarter. With this one, I don't have that, so it's more of a struggle. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Yeah, so
yeah.
Ava's story is it's basically about her obsession with death.
Okay.
And when she sent it to me, I thought this was autobiographical. It seems, you know, there's so many details and that just led me to believe that it was. But after talking to her, it turns out that it is fiction, but I think it's probably, you know, there's a lot of real life base in it, I would guess. But so it's a few different separate stories that are all threaded together about this woman who's obsessed with death from childhood. She's, you know, terrified of it, obsessed with it, and it sort of follows her through her life all the way up to being elderly. And, you know, in the middle, she's homeless. She's a homeless punk girl. I don't know. It was just really captivating to me.
Okay. So that one, Lautman's Pictures of Bananas and Funny Bugs, and your Thonger Dongers will be coming out in April, I guess, debuting at Mocha Fest. So tell us a little bit about your own contribution here, Thonger Dongers. Okay,
so Thonger Dongers is the third sort of installment. I mean, they're, you know, can be read separately. It's not a, what do you call it? It's not a series, but it's just a collection of shorter comics that I've done mostly for anthologies. So this is another installation of that. I'm pulling a couple from Bottoms Up, our last anthology about addiction. And then there's a couple from different, Not My Small Diary, Delane Derry Green's. It's a series, anthology she's been doing for 20 years now. And it's autobiographical comics around a different theme for each book.
Okay.
Both of these happen to be pet themed. One of them, the theme of the book was pets, and the other one was, I believe, unexplained mysteries or something like that. So, yeah, so that's what mine will be.
Okay. And then I see that there are also a couple of September releases. Now, these will be debuting at Small Press Expo. Jordan Jeffries, The Complete Matinee Junkie, 5 years at the movies. And then D. Bradford Gamble's A Lone Deer at the End of the World. So those are a part of this Kickstarter campaign as well.
Yes.
And then you have a couple of November releases, Larkin Ford's Goat Song and Stephanie Mannheim's Nate the Conformist Has a Rival.
The Nonconformist.
Oh, what did I say? Nonconformist. Nate the Nonconformist Has a Rival.
So, yeah, the other releases we've got D. Bradford Gamble's A Lone Deer at the End of the World, which is a really nice little, it's like a quiet story, but then it has moments of loudness. And beautifully illustrated, I think. The other one, we've got Larkin Ford's Goat Song, which is a strange sort of surrealist tale about a meat cutter who gets this bad infection on his leg. And it ends up, I don't want to spoil what happens, but it gets very bizarre. And also, Jordan Jeffries, we're collecting all 5 years of his Matinee Junkie series, which is, he draws a diary comic for every movie that he sees, and he sees a lot of movies. But what I like about it is it's not strictly it's not a movie review. It's more, you know, what's going on in his life at that time. It doesn't always, sometimes it barely mentions the movie at all. So that's, you know, I'm really happy to collect that.
Yeah, and then there's Nate the Nonconformist Has a Rival. I have to tell you, when I saw that cover from a distance, at first I thought, oh my God, you got Johnny Ryan doing something for Birdcage Bottom?
Yeah, Stephanie Mannheim, I've always been a fan of her style of drawing. It's great. And this one's, it's a goofy comic just about this kid who thinks he's, you know, the biggest Nonconformist, biggest punk, and he has a rival. That one's funny.
These titles that'll be coming later in the year, along with the ones that you're going to be debuting at MochaFest, I see that when it comes to the rewards levels that you have arranged them in a particular way. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the rewards levels, what people will get at what amount?
Okay, so yeah, I set up, there's rewards for each of those time periods, so you can buy, whatever's coming out in April, you can get those 3, or you can get what's coming out in September, the 2 that are coming out then, or the ones in November. But then, there's a lot of different reward tiers. So there's there's one, the one that's most popular right now is getting everything that's being released, and it'll be shipped. The first 3 will be shipped in April, and then I'm going to ship all the rest probably in, I'm saying November, but I may ship them in September, because the last 2, if they're done in time, I'll just ship, I'll print them early and ship them all out. So, but anyway, yeah, there's a lot of different reward tiers. There's straightforward ones like that. There's a lot of, you get custom art. You can get, like Ava Müller will do a portrait of you dancing with death with a skeleton. Jordan Jeffries, he's doing a great one where he'll watch any movie that you want him to, and then he'll draw like an illustration of either inspired by the movie or directly from a scene from the movie. Mm-hmm. I'll draw pretty much anything you want. What else? And then there's some bonus zines or bonus mini comics. Like Jordan Jeffries has 2 comics where he watched a horror movie for every day of October. So there's 31 of them. And then he did an illustration for each one, and then a little sort of mini review of it. And then there's one that I'm really excited about that is he sort of he found his old journal that he kept from when he was a freshman in art school in college. And so it's, very typical art school sort of cringeworthy, embarrassing entries about his, both his day-to-day life and his failed romances, and, talking a lot about different movies that he'd seen and his reactions to them. It's pretty funny.
Now, the one that you were mentioning that's the most popular, this is the one, all 2018 releases bundles, right? And this is the one that for $53, people can get all of your releases, and they'll come in basically 2 installments, one in the spring and then the other one in the fall in November. And so that's the most popular. But as you point out, and I encourage our listeners to check this out, I mean, you offer quite a variety of reward levels that not only include different mixes of what you list here in terms of the 2018 releases, but as you were pointing out, packages that include original art, sketches from the various contributors, yourself included, maybe back issues like I think there's one called Too Much Lautman, or Lautman Completist Bundle, that's it, where you get not only the new, but also some of her previous works. And also you mix in some of the 2018 releases and various anthologies that you've come out with. Yeah.
Yeah, the anthologies, have done pretty well, and so I just wanted to offer those as well. So you can, there's different tiers where you can get both the books that are the new books that are coming out and some of the old books. There's you can do a lot of mixing and matching. I'm probably going to use something called Backer Kit that one of my backers recommended, where that will allow people at the end, when they complete their survey, they'll be able to add on anything from our back catalog.
That's good. I know I've done something like that with previous Kickstarter campaigns that I have backed, and I have appreciated that, because after the campaign's over with, I decide, well, maybe there's more that I want from this creator or this creative team, and that's it. And I think it's smart that what you're doing is not only creating various reward levels devoted to only or including mainly your 2018 releases, but that you include some of the previous books that you've put out from Birdcage Bottom as well. especially those anthologies. Now, I was one of the ones who backed the Bottoms Up anthology, Bottoms Up True Tales of Hitting Rock Bottom, that came out last year. But you also have other notable anthologies. There's Cringe, an anthology of embarrassment. And then Digestate. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Digestate. Okay, a food and eating themed anthology. And these are interesting not only because you have a variety of creators, some whose names we may not recognize, some we may, but it's unique themes, right? I mean, many times anthologies will be created around themes that people recognize, like genres, crime, or science fiction, fantasy, things of that sort. You're doing something different with the Birdcage Bottom anthologies, which I really appreciate. So, by backing this particular Kickstarter, not only will you be discovering the new releases from you, but also people can get a sense of what Birdcage Bottom Books is all about.
Yep, I hope so. That's part of the idea, by backing this Kickstarter, you're supporting a bunch of artists that could use that support and could use, eyes on their stuff. So hopefully they can expand their fan base. And that's kind of what I've always done. So most of the back catalog is going to be the same situation. So.
Mm-hmm. And, okay, so the deadline to back the Birdcage Bottom Books 2008 Comics campaign is Tuesday, February 20th at 8:42 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So everyone should definitely check this out and make sure that you back it at some reward level by Tuesday, February 20th in the morning. Have to get up early if you wait until the 20th.
Yeah.
Tell me before we go, how has Birdcage Bottom Books grown over the past several years, especially as it relates to Kickstarter? In other words, you've done a few campaigns on Kickstarter in the past. How has that contributed to the growth of the publisher?
I think that's, Kickstarter's great in the way that they sort of act as a promotional tool. It's at first I was sort of hesitant to use it, because I felt like, I don't know, in my mind, I felt like, I'm begging people for money. But really, the way that I set it up and the way that I use it, it's more of a way of pre-ordering comics and then also having the chance to get really special stuff that you wouldn't otherwise be available. So, and it does act like as its own promotional tool and reaches some people that I may not have been able to reach otherwise.
And if people wanted to find out more about Birdcage Bottom Books outside of Kickstarter, where would they go online?
Outside of Kickstarter? Well, we've got a website, birdcagebottombooks.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're on Tumblr, but I don't really do much on that anymore. It seemed to have sort of fallen off, so I'm not on that very actively. But Instagram is probably where I'm most active. I try to feature... Birdcage Bottom Books is also a distro, so we carry a lot of other small press or self-published comics, and so I try to feature a different one, whenever I can. I used to do it every day. I have 2 kids that I take care of, so I'm not able to do that as often as I would like. But and I do a lot of contests. We've got one right now that all you have to do is you go on either Instagram or our Facebook page and go, you check out our Kickstarter and you basically just comment which one you like the best, and you have a chance to win anything of your choosing from our catalog. So yeah, I have contests like that all the time, giveaways.
Yeah, so not only should people check out your current Kickstarter campaign, but also go to birdcagebottombooks.com or check you out via the various social media platforms that you mentioned. So I hope that everyone listening to this does back this current campaign. You get to learn about Birdcage Bottom Books by visiting their website. And when this conversation goes up, there's just a little over 2 weeks that you have to back. Remember, the deadline is Tuesday, February 20th at 8:42 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. JT, thank you very much for coming on the Comics Alternative Kickstarter program and introducing us to your current campaign.
Thanks for having me.
And we will be back next week with another comics-related Kickstarter campaign. Until then, I'm Derek. Have a great weekend.